Shopping for a new single-family home in the U.S. is arguably harder than ever before.
There's a bidding war for literally every home on the market, every fixer-upper, every house that needs even a lot of work.
My neighbors, actually, because we were on vacation, were calling me and texting me saying, like, what is going on at your house? There's people in a line down the block. We saw two people having a fight.
With city dwellers emigrating to the suburbs and families looking for home offices and bigger yards, prices for the American dream home have skyrocketed. Home prices surged in March 2021, up 13% from the year prior, according to the S&P Case-Shiller Index.
Everybody expected housing to really sort of dry up with the rest of the economy, and in fact, the opposite has happened.
With homeowners unwilling to sell, a record low supply of homes for sale has forced buyers into intense bidding wars. At the end of April 2021, there were only 1.16 million houses for sale in the U.S., down 20.5% from the year prior. Higher costs for land, labor, and building materials have also impacted home builders.
So currently in the United States, we have a huge shortage of housing. We're not producing nearly as much housing as we should be.
We know that home ownership is the primary way of getting into the middle class, but unfortunately, there are many impediments to that are divided by class and particularly race.
With the 30-year fixed mortgage rate hovering near a 50-year low and a strong demand pushing prices to all-time highs, why is the housing supply so meager? Is the U.S. running out of houses? The U.S. real estate market is red hot. Since the start of the pandemic, 5% of buyers who purchased a home did so without even physically seeing the home in person. In many markets, competitive bidding wars are the norm.
There's a bidding war for literally every home on the market, every fixer-upper, every house that needs even a lot of work. It's still just a crazy bidding war.
Our house had 44 offers on it.
With his New York City office shut due to the pandemic and looking for more space for his family, in the summer of 2020, Justin Goldberg and his wife Jessica put their 3-bedroom Bloomfield, New Jersey home on the market. The house listed for $399,000.
My neighbors, actually, because we were on vacation, were calling me and texting me saying, like, what is going on at your house? There's people in a line down the block. We saw two people having a fight.
With multiple six-figure offers over the asking price, the house sold for $542,000, over $140,000 more than what the couple was asking for. But the family then found themselves struggling to find a new home.
It was definitely a risk for us to take because we knew that the pandemic wouldn't last forever. His job said, you'll be working from home for the foreseeable future, and gave up their office space in the city.
With little inventory on the market, the couple signed a 1-year lease on a rental, and on the advice from their realtor, they then modified their house search from looking for a move-in ready home to a fixer-upper.
I'm telling you, immediately you walk into the house that you want to buy and you get the feeling. And I got the feeling. And we walked through the house and it was not in good condition. The bones were there, there was nothing structurally wrong with the house. Everything was technically in good shape. Everything that needed to be changed was pretty cosmetic, but every single room in the house needed changes.
The family of 4 found a 4-bedroom fixer-upper in Randolph, New Jersey, with more space and a bigger yard.
We wanted a bedroom for each of our children, and an extra office or a guest room would have been fantastic.
Although the home was already under attorney review, the couple put in a higher bid and ended up buying the house for $555,000. According to experts, a few key steps homebuyers can take to navigate the ultra-competitive market include getting pre-approved for a mortgage, finding a good real estate agent, and figuring out exactly how much you're willing to spend. An additional option first-time homebuyers have is to rent the home back to the seller while they look for their new home.
My best advice at this time is if you don't want to overspend, go into a house knowing that you're going to do a little work and you'll probably get it for a better price, and honestly, you can turn it into your dream home.
The U.S. has a housing shortage. With potential sellers unwilling to show their homes during the pandemic, in April 2021, there were 1.16 million U.S. homes for sale, down 20.5% from a year earlier. That lack of inventory has helped push the median price of existing homes higher, up a little over 19% from the previous year to a historic $341,600. One key factor in that price jump is with fewer, less expensive homes on the market, sales at the higher end accounted for much of the activity. During that same period, homes were selling in record time too, typically just 17 days on the market. While several large publicly traded companies like NVR, Lennar, Beazer Homes, and Hovnanian Enterprises construct single-family homes, townhouses, and condos, the vast majority of new construction in the U.S. is done by small businesses.
Home building is one of the last real vestiges of small business in America. The overwhelming number of housing, and I want to say it's close to 75 or 80%, is built by small businesses, mostly family-owned, all over the country.
Those builders have faced serious hurdles in recent years, including pandemic-related supply chain disruptions that have caused a spike in the price of building materials like drywall, steel, and wood.
The supply chain is in complete disarray right now from COVID.
The poster child for that is lumber.
As of May 2021, lumber prices are up more than 300% from a year ago. According to the National Association of Home Builders, rising lumber prices have added almost $36,000 to the price of a new single-family home. An aging workforce and challenging immigration policies have also led to a shortage of construction workers.
We simply don't have enough people, therefore labor prices are going through the roof.
Labor was a problem for us during the last housing boom and during the recovery, and it's even more of a problem now because in many places it is easier for potential workers not to come back to work and stay on the sidelines.
An even bigger problem might be the land that houses are built on. As of April 2021, the price per single lot is up 11% compared to last year. Real estate data firm Zonda said new lot supply is down 24% from a year ago.
And the challenge moving forward is infill. How do we invest in cities, into older suburbs? How do we reinvigorate with greater density things like accessory dwelling units for your mother-in-law in the backyard? How do we handle people who are challenged with affordable housing? It's all going to mean that we have new development patterns, we need new forms of housing. So yes, we're not building enough housing, and we need to double or triple that rate of housing just to meet natural growth in our economy. And I think we can do that, but we have to do that by thinking of new forms of housing and really changing our zoning.
Home ownership is a catalyst for building wealth with the added benefit of providing safer neighborhoods for families and better schools for kids. But not everyone can afford to own a home.
That's why the home ownership solution is a solution, even now, for many households. The problem is getting into home ownership.
In the first quarter of 2021, the home ownership rate in the U.S. was 65.6%. According to the U.S. Census, the home ownership rate for white Americans in the U.S. is almost 74%, compared to 49% for Hispanic Americans and 45% for Black Americans. A major hurdle for many is the down payment. Typically, home buyers put 20% down when taking out a conventional mortgage.
We know that that typically also requires having a certain amount of income. And for a lot of people, that is much easier said than done. For example, for people of color, it is much harder to be able to put down that type of down payment because they may not have the familiar support as people who come from more affluent neighborhoods.
These gaps are exceedingly troubling because the implications of them are very pervasive. Black household wealth is 1/10 what it is for white households, and a large portion of that gap is due to the lack of home ownership. Even though mortgage rates are at historic lows, there's been a ratcheting up of the qualifications that are required to borrow to become a homeowner, and that has impacted minority households more than majority households.
Buyers paying less than a 20% down payment are often subject to primary mortgage insurance. That can range from an additional $30 to $70 per month for every $100,000 borrowed, according to Zillow. Student debt is another barrier many first-time home buyers face. According to the National Association of Realtors, the average home buyer in 2020 carried $30,000 in student debt.
When I talk to young people, a lot of times they are trying to pay their rent versus their grocery, or they're trying to pay their student loans.
Single-family zoning, pervasive across much of the U.S., limits the number of units that can be built on a plot of land, making it difficult for families to afford certain communities.
Single-family zoning has really been a barrier for lower to moderate income people to be able to live in particular neighborhoods, because single-family zoning bans any type of home being built or any type of multifamily home or any type of detached home from being built, which is a huge barrier to people who are just trying to start off.
But that may be starting to change. In 2019, Oregon became the first state to pass legislation banning single-family zoning in most of the state. Around the same time, Minneapolis became the first big American city to end the practice.
So one of the major impediments to our shortage of housing, in addition to the land economics and the supply chain, is that we have a lot of communities in this country that don't want to have affordable housing. They don't want to have anything other than large suburban estates, if you will. And I think we need greater exercise of federal policy over these local communities that are utilizing